I read 109 books in 2023, and here's a review of 28 of them in one sentence or less. Hello fellow readers, book lovers, and anyone else who's watching. I'm Emily at Midnight. Welcome to my channel. In the past, I've filmed videos on stationary chairs, but my stationary chairs all squeak. So now I'm filming on a swivelly chair, and that might be a problem. If I'm moving too much, I don't know. You can't let me know. It'll be too late. So we'll find out. Now I'm dizzy. Wow, 2023 went by so fast. I hope it feels that way for you guys, because it feels like an absolute blink of an eye to me. I read so many books, and I loved, honestly, just so many of them. It was a really great year for reading for me. I can't believe it's already time to do a year wrap-up, but here we are. In fact, I'm doing it a bit later than I planned to. So as I said, I read 109 books in 2023, and I loved so many of them, and I'm a little bit crazy and couldn't pick a normal number to review, like, I don't know, my 5 favorites or something like that. Instead, when I was narrowing down my list, I couldn't convince myself to narrow it down any smaller than 28. So here we are. Because I know that's an unreasonable number of books to review, I'm going to review each book in one sentence or less. Let's see how this goes. I get 1 point for every book that I successfully review or explain in only one sentence, but I don't get any points if I have to use more than one sentence. I'll be playing a sound effect after every review. If I succeed, you'll hear this sound, and if I fail, you'll hear this sound. We're starting off strong with the mystery section. I got into mystery this year, and it was so much fun. I read mostly Agatha Christie, but definitely sprinkled some other books in there. So, of course, it's fitting that my first review in the mystery section would be an Agatha Christie book. We start off with And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie. Here we go. A mystery thriller written by the Queen of Mystery herself. This book takes you on a wild ride as you follow 10 strangers as they get slowly picked off one by one, following the lines of an eerie nursery rhyme, never knowing who will survive or who the killer is until it's too late. Up next, we have Crooked House by Agatha Christie. A man proposes to the woman he loves, but she refuses to marry him until the mystery of a family member's murder is solved. So he comes along to uncover truths about each of her slightly unnerving family members. But will he find the answer before another victim is claimed? Next, we have The Secret Adversary, also by Agatha Christie. Lifelong friends Tommy and Tuppence plot to make a little cash by solving mysteries for people, only to have their first ever case throw them into the depths of a crime and cover-up that follows them home and endangers their lives. Next, we have Maisie Dobbs by Jacqueline Winspear. A former World War II nurse returns home to England and starts a private investigation firm, and uncovers secrets of a prominent couple's inner world, while also exploring and working through the complicated history of Maisie's past. Next, we have the fantasy section. We'll start with Yumi and the Nightmare Painter by Brandon Sanderson. This is a crazy story with a cold and dark world, lit only by neon lights, and this bright world that's so hot you can't touch the stones on the ground. And there are this boy and girl that have to figure out how to please the spirits and fight these nightmarish monsters, all while being ripped back and forth between these two worlds. And they have this super great dynamic where at first they don't like each other, but then they grow to understand each other and care for each other, and it's so cute and I love it. Next is Under the Whispering Door by T.J. Klune. A man gets picked up by a Grim Reaper after he dies and is told to cross over to the next plane by entering a door at the top of the Grim Reaper's home that calls to him in peaceful whisperings that he can't ignore, but he isn't ready to leave the world behind. So for a while he lives with a ragtag group of Grim Reapers. And it's lovely because he comes to grips with death in a great way, and there's this found family aspect, and he also develops feelings for someone, and in the end it's just very heartwarming and lovely. This one has a very similar tune. It's The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. A woman who has given up on life finds herself in the Midnight Library, a world between worlds, a place between places, where one gets the chance to pick up a book and see what life would be like if they fixed a single regret. But will solving these regrets simply make her wish that she had done life differently, or will it help her rekindle her love of life and desire to go on? Next we have the romance section. Starting strong with 7 Days in June by Tia Williams. Eva and Shane, now both well-known authors, struggle to move on from 7 eventful days in June in their teenage years that tied them together, but now thrown together again unexpectedly. They are forced to reconcile with their pasts and each other, and may have one of the sweetest romances at the same time. Next, we have The Charm Offensive by Alison Cotran. A shy yet successful computer coder / CEO, Charlie, against his own better judgment,
I fought against my better judgment,
agrees to take on a role as essentially the Bachelor in a reality TV show to save his dying reputation and ensure his future career, when he meets his caring wrangler Dev, a kind-hearted sweet guy who takes better care of him than anyone ever has before. What happens when you go on reality TV to fall in love and succeed, but not with one of the contestants? Next is What If It's Us by Becky Albertalli and Adam Silvera. During a summer internship in New York, Arthur has a chance encounter with a guy named Ben, but before he's able to get his contact information, they're whisked apart, leaving Arthur wondering if he could ever find him again, and if he could, what would happen? Their story is so cute, please read it. The next book is Book Lovers by Emily Henry. I won't even waste time with a premise on this one. This book follows two people who come to understand and care about each other so deeply it's uncanny, and it shows the depths and struggles and growths of sibling relationships, and it does such an incredible job of depicting personal struggles and the strength it takes to overcome them, all while being such an adorable romance. So if you take the time to read any of the books on this list, read this one! Next is The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. This romance centers on a girl who comes to live in her grandmother's apartment that she was always told was magical but never really believed, until she found herself transported 7 years in the past, face to face with a man who sublet the apartment all those years ago. The last romance is Spoiler Alert by Olivia Dade. Two fanfiction writers have been friends for years as they both work on fanfiction for a book-turned-TV show. But one of them, April, is heartbroken when communication with her friend is cut off, right at the same time that the main actor from that show enters her life, asking her on a date. Could they possibly be the same man? The next section is Sci-Fi. The next book is Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel. Years after civilization ends, we follow a group of traveling play actors, seeking to bring joy to the survivors. But not every group is safe or kind to outsiders, and the group discovers hidden secrets and ties to the past while hunting for a missing friend. Next, we have Ready Player One by Ernest Cline. Living in a dystopian future, Wade Watts seeks escapism through an all-encompassing virtual reality known as the Oasis. Playing the game within the game, trying to solve the mystery left behind by Oasis's creator and prevent the site from being taken over by a greedy company that would quickly change the virtual reality world forever. Next, we have Wilder Girls by Rory Power. A remote, all-girls boarding school has been quarantined from the outside world because they've been infected by a new disease called the tox that changes and warps their bodies, giving them extra spines or gills or glowing body parts. But what it does to animals on the other side of the fence is far more terrifying. But Hetty isn't afraid when she's chosen to be one of the girls who crosses the fence to collect their rations, shipped to the edge of the island by the military, because Hetty needs to get to the other side of the fence to figure out where they've taken her best friend. The last sci-fi book is The Three-Body Problem by Liu Cixin. The world's best scientists are horrified to discover that everything that they know about physics is falling apart as the same experiment done across the same room is yielding different results. But when he goes looking for answers, Wang Miao is instead led to an otherworldly video game where he must discover the secrets to a new world. But why does he keep getting sent back to this game instead of getting answers, and what secrets does this game hold? Just as he starts to understand the game, he's brought into an elite group of people that also understand the secrets now baffling the world, and just might know the answers too. The next section is fiction. The first book in the fiction section is Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This book is a super interesting look into an up-and-coming singer named Daisy Jones and a popular band called The Six, and their attempts at fame and interpersonal relationships, especially as the Six start to work with Daisy professionally. And I totally felt like a fly on the wall, seeing all of their drama and how things worked out throughout their fame. I did spend about 40% of the book thinking that it was about a real singer and a real band because of how the book is written, so I'll save you the Googling. No, it's not a real band, it's not a real singer, none of them are real, it's fiction. I know, I'm sorry, you'll never be able to listen to Aurora. I'm still crying about it. But if you read the book with your eyeballs instead of listening to an audiobook, then they do have the song lyrics printed in the back. So you can at least pretend that you listen to Aurora. Next is Beasts of a Little Land by Joo-hae Kim. During the early 1900s in Korea, we follow Jade, a young courtesan in training, and a street rat turned revolutionary, Jung-ho, who are childhood friends, and we watch them handle their young lives. And as Korea changes during their formative years, we see them struggle to find a place in this new world and who they grow up into, all on the backdrop of a super fascinating time in Korea's history. Next is Remarkably Bright Creatures by Shelby Van Pelt. Interspersed with the observations of an octopus that lives in the small town's aquarium, this book follows the struggles of an old woman feeling lonely and looking for meaning, and a young adult man trying to find his place in this world, a home for himself, and answers about his past. And we follow them make friends with each other and other people in the town, creating an adorable found family, and also watch them as they uncover the thread that connects them. Next is The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. We follow an aspiring journalist as she's received an invitation to be the first person in ages to interview the famous celebrity Evelyn Hugo. And upon arriving, she discovers that Evelyn isn't just interested in a simple article, but that she wants this journalist to write her entire life story into a book since she's lost the last of her friends to old age. So she's ready to share all of her secrets with the world. And while the story is filled with a lot of intrigue and drama, it also shows an incredibly touching love story, both romantic and platonic, and it was so touching I cried multiple times. Next is the nonfiction section. I'm gonna break my one-sentence rule for this section. I'm sorry. I'll make it super brief, I promise, but it's really hard to do run-on sentences when talking about nonfiction, okay? We're starting with The Sum of Us by Heather McGhee. This book focuses on the tie between social and legal racism in the US through the lens of the zero-sum game, which is a fallacy that if someone gains something, then someone else necessarily must lose something. So in this case, it's exploring how historically and up to the present, there's a fear that breaking down racist barriers and ensuring equal rights for non-white groups will force white people to give up some rights or something in order for these other groups to gain equal rights. Heather McGhee gives the example of how from the 1930s to the 1950s, America boasted thousands of free-to-the-public swimming pools in communities that in actuality were only accessible to the white public. In 1956, in Baltimore, Maryland, these segregated swimming pools were challenged, and due to the nature of them being public pools, they won the appeal and it was deemed that no public pool could be segregated. With this, people of all races were able to swim in the public pools and no one lost anything by allowing more freedom to more people. That is, until racist communities took matters into their own hands across the country and changed the pools from being public pools to being private pools that people had to pay to enter. And then these communities were able to continue segregation by only allowing white people to pay to enter. Through this historical example and many, many others, Heather McGhee shows how rights and equality are only a zero-sum game where people lose by giving to others only if we allow racist policies to continue to plague us. If we don't step in the way, then adding more rights to other people harms no one. Next is Unmasking Autism by Devin Price. Devin Price explains masking, or going out of one's way to not act autistic and acting more like neurotypical people, and the price it has on autistic people and society at large. They explain the things that we miss out on by insisting that people fit into subjective standards rather than creating a more inclusive society that can benefit from all perspectives. It was a super helpful read for me because it helped me to better understand the experiences of autistic people and the effects of masking on them. Next is The Will to Change by Bell Hooks. This book describes all the ways that the patriarchy harms men, looking particularly at those aspects of performative masculinity that prevents men from being able to feel authentically. We all know those studies that show that crying and working through your emotions is so much better for your mental health. This book looks at all the ways that not allowing men to cry or express their emotions in healthy ways, particularly ones that are deemed feminine, such as vulnerability, because boys and men are expected to man up from approximately the age of 12 and older. It explores the harm that that mentality has on the male psyche, and walks through ways that we can undo that harmful training and allow men to have more fulfilling and healthy lives. Next is Tough, My Journey to True Power by Terry Crews. This book is Terry Crews' memoir about masculinity and misconceptions that he had about it. He was raised in a home with an abusive father, and even after he swore that he would never become like his father, he did see himself acting out masculinity in a harmful and aggressive way, almost landing him in jail right as his career started taking off because he felt like he needed to fight a man who said something rude to his wife. Terry Crews explains how he always thought that true power and masculinity had to be proven through physical strength and toughness, but he walks us through how he discovered that that wasn't true, and how he connected to his inner value and strength in a way that he didn't have to prove, through inner work, religion, and true connection. The last nonfiction book is Between the World and Me by Ta-Nehisi Coates. This short book is part memoir, part essay written by excellent writer Ta-Nehisi Coates to his son, explaining the difficult experiences that he will encounter growing up as a black man in inner city America. I've read several books on racism and the experiences of black Black people in the US, but this one hit particularly hard. I think that is mostly due to the fact that most of those books that I've read were written by Black authors with a white audience in mind, trying to help explain the experience to them. But this book wasn't written with a white audience in mind. Ta-Nehisi Coates wasn't trying to make a white reader understand his experience. He wasn't pulling any punches to cater to a white audience's sensitivities. He was telling the cold, hard truth to his son to prepare him for the harsh realities of the world that he was about to enter. And seeing it that way, hearing the raw pain that he dug out of his chest through sheer force of paternal love, raked my soul and brought me face to face with the weight that seemingly small encounters with racism can have as years go by, and especially the fear of those bigger racist encounters with police and other armed white citizens. If you want to learn more about racism in the US, then this is a must read. The last section is picture books. If you've seen some of my other videos, then you know I have this running gag where every year I seem to read picture books and read way too much into them and just absolutely hate them. So this year, some of the picture books that I read, I actually liked. I know. And so I thought I would break that trend by reviewing some of the picture books that I did like. The first book is Neither by Arlie Anderson. This is a sweet little book that explains in childlike terms how people and things can exist out of an expected binary. Lastly, we have We Are the Water Protectors by Carol Lindstrom. It's also illustrated by the incredibly talented Indigenous illustrator Michaela Gold. This charming book shows the importance of water to life and native cultures, and the importance of defending access to clean water for people and for the land. Alright, the final tally is 14 out of 23, with 5 exempt because they were nonfiction and far too difficult to explain in one sentence. That's definitely more than half, and since I didn't clarify at the beginning what would count as a winning score, I'm counting it as a winning score. That's it, folks. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked this video, please be sure to give it a like and subscribe below because I've got some great things coming up for 2024 and you don't want to miss out. Also, feel free to follow my Goodreads, Instagram, etc., all of which are Emily at Midnight and are linked in the description below. Have a wonderful day, treat people with respect, and pick up a book.